Hello, Express Entry Law Facebook group members, and those of you tuning in on YouTube on the Canadian Immigration Institute YouTube channel. Welcome back for another fantastic EE Live Q&A. And in this session, we have the pleasure of having Ada join me, and she is going to be my special guest to talk about the settlement process. And we've talked a lot about, within our group, how to get your approval, how to become a permanent resident of Canada. But we rarely talk about what happens after you get here, what to expect, some of the challenging aspects of landing in a new country, getting yourself settled. And so I'm going to bring Ada on to talk a little bit more about that and share some insight to all of us. And I know that you guys are going to love it. So I'm going to wait for a few minutes here while people connect. I have my lovely phone here, which will allow me to see all of your fine comments. So let's start off, as always, with just commenting where you're from. Chime in now. I'm going to pull it up, the feed here on my little phone here. But we'll, as people connect here and are able to refine this feed, then we'll get into the full EE Live Q&A here. All right, so let's just see if I can find it here. My own little feed. There we go. Awesome. Okay, now let's see what we have in terms of people connecting. Awesome. Yes, and people are piling in. So today, like I said, we're going to talk a little bit about settlement. And then after that, I've got a bunch of awesome questions that people have sent in that I'm going to be answering. And then as always, at the end, we're going to save a little bit of time for all of you guys who have been patiently waiting live to get your questions answered right on the spot. And who does that? Let's face it. Who does that out there in YouTube land or Facebook world or wherever actually answers questions live? Well, I do. So stay tuned for that. That'll be a lot of fun. Now, I want to share a little bit of insight with all of you right now. I have created this group. Oh, we've got here Jadat's from Dubai. Welcome, Jadat. This group that we've created here has been somewhat of a love-hate relationship for me. Now, I shouldn't really describe it as a love-hate, but it's more a love-hate relationship with Facebook. So I'm learning that when I post links back, if you want to hire me, or I post a link to my Express Entry complete step-by-step guide to doing it yourself, Facebook doesn't like those links to outside of Facebook. And so they throttle this feed. And I noticed that not as many people are actually getting the benefit of this within our Facebook group because Facebook doesn't like me putting links out to other things. So I'm going to refrain from doing that within the description from now on. And I'm going to see if that helps to get the reach out a little bit further with these videos that we're doing. And the reason is because I recorded a video on the weekend at my house, and you can go back and you can, those who are members of the Facebook group, you can search for it. But I recorded a video of me sharing what I was doing on the weekend, which was hauling gravel in a wheelbarrow back into my backyard to cover up my garden that I officially said I'm done with. I am no longer gardening. I've spent so much time and it's just been a complete and total waste. And so waste of money, waste of resources, waste of my energy. I could not get anything to grow. So now it is a covered over gravel, covered over with gravel, and I am now making it my fire pit. So we can go out and hang out there and roast wieners and marshmallows, which is a Canadian tradition, with my kids out in my backyard. But that video, guys, I think if I was to look right now, let's just see what we got here. I'm going to share my screen. Let me see right here. And Ada has been patiently waiting here. She's going to be joining us in just a second. But I want to share with you how many views. Let's go see how many views we have on our group here of that video that I did. And I wonder how far back I have to go. This is the amazing thing. Facebook, it's quite a mystery. Oh, nice. Lots of people have lots of things. Let's see how far down I have to go until I can actually find that post I made. You'll notice because it is a post with a wheelbarrow full of gravel. All right, let's see. Wow. See, look at, this is what happens, guys, when we have 114,000 people, or I guess 112,000 people in our group. It takes an eternity for me to see anything that I post. And after it's posted, it is gone. I'm still scrolling. Wow. Oh, and someone's posting their WhatsApp group. Hey, this is what I think of WhatsApp groups. Yeah. Delete, comment. Okay, I won't delete Nazir right off the bat, but that's okay. My moderators are supposed to catch those ones. Okay, let's see. Oh, wait a second here. Is this it? No, false alarm. Okay, I have another idea. And I know some of you guys that are watching this are like, Mark, seriously? Okay, I'm going to go over to videos here. Okay, let's see if we can find it right here. I think this is the one. That is it. Now the question is, how do I figure out what the hits are on this? Oh, I can't even see. Man, I don't understand Facebook. This is crazy. Fine, I don't know what it is. But anyways, I think there's probably about 7,000 hits on this. And it was only two minutes and 50 seconds that I shared this. And I don't have any data on it. Man, I can't figure this out. Whatever. Who cares? I'm forgetting about this officially right now. I'm gonna switch back to the main screen. Anyways, the point is, on my phone, there were over 7,000 views of this video. And there's probably more if I was able to actually find it. But when I try to do one of these EE Live Q&As where there's actually helpful content that can benefit all of you guys, for some reason, Facebook doesn't feel it's worthy of spreading to everybody in our group. So if you see one of these videos and you find it helpful, share it with everybody else in the group. Let people know, tag them, whatever, so that they can find it, because right now it is becoming really frustrating for me. All right. So that's the housekeeping matter. Now, the last thing I wanted to talk to you guys about was the actual express entry law Facebook group. And many of you are probably wondering, why do you call it express entry law? And there's all kinds of Facebook groups out there. They're popping up all over the place. In fact, I know there's quite a number of people that have come into my group, saw what I've been doing, and then tried to create their own. And most often they were consultants or other people who are also trying to get the benefits of these lovely Facebook groups. Well, that's all fine and dandy. But guys, it's express entry law for a reason. I am a Canadian immigration lawyer. The information that I share here is not based on my experience filing applications. It's not based on just my own thoughts or my own guesses. It is based on the law. And when you see me post, you will see that I always try to link back to the government website, to the actual law or policy that drives the immigration process, that drives express entry. Whereas so many other people with their lovely groups, they develop their supposed expertise by listening to the responses of other people or hearing someone who told them that they could do things a certain way and that it would work. So it was entirely based on anecdotal experiences, or if they were a consultant or someone else who doesn't really understand the law, they base it on their experience filing lots of applications and seeing what happens. You know, if something gets rejected, then they know, oh, I better not do that because I just ruined the life of one of my clients. Well, I don't operate that way. And the level now, because we have such a large group, I'm starting to raise the bar. My moderators are expected, if they're answering questions, to link back to the source of their answers. And those of you out there who are claiming to be experts within my group, I'm also raising the bar for you because you've developed a reputation of supposedly having the answers, and people in my group must link back to the source if they're answering. Because I don't want this group to be just like any other group where people are just throwing out their own thoughts and hopes and, and prayers based on an answer. It has to be founded in actual law or policy. So that is why this group is express entry law. That is why this group is going to be, hands down, going forward into the future, the trusted source of information on express entry. So the bar is getting raised, and some people are going to get blocked from the group if they don't adhere to this, especially those that I know are not immigrating to Canada. They're only coming in just to provide information and supposedly get all of the glory of being recognized as an expert. Well, just because you're throwing out answers, I want those answers linked back. So there's the level I'm set, that I've set now for our group members. I'm super, super grateful for all of you guys that have come on, share insight, share experiences. And sometimes there isn't a link. There isn't a place to link back to. Sometimes the question is related to your experience, and that's totally fine. But just when people are relying on aspects to actually to support what they're submitting for their own express entry profile or eAPR, those answers have to be correct. There's no guessing. All right, guys, it is time right now for me to jump in and bring on my special guest. So I'm going to give Ada the cue to turn her mic on so we can hear her here. And then I'm going to add her in. So let's see if we got this. I think we do. There we go. Ada, how are you?
Oh, I'm great, Mark. How are you?
Very good. This is awesome. So I have the pleasure of having Ada join me. And Ada, where are you right now?
Oh, I'm in Lethbridge, Alberta.
Woo! Yeah. So, see, who thought that I was going to be able to convince someone to move to Lethbridge? Now, in fairness, Ada was already looking at Lethbridge, but Lethbridge rules.
Yes,
so,
it does. It
does.
Very
cool. Why Lethbridge, Ada? Why in the world would you want to move here?
Well, everyone I've met here have asked me this same question. Why Lethbridge of all the places in Canada? But I chose Alberta for a reason. Low tax rate, higher than average income, and then Lethbridge because I have little kids. I was looking at a smaller city. Coming from Lagos, a city of over 20 million people in Nigeria, I wanted something different. So Lethbridge has a college, it has a university. I felt, well, if you want to pop into the school for further studies, you can easily get that in Lethbridge as well. Mm-hmm. So that was why I came here.
Very cool. So what is the sales tax in Alberta? This is a quiz. Do you know how much it is?
I think it's 13%. Or 5%.
5%. Yes. And in some of the other provinces, it is 11 or more. So right off the bat, Alberta has the lowest goods and services tax.
Yes.
So, and it is just the total awesomest, coolest province in the whole country of Canada. Mm-hmm. But aside from that, and it's interesting, you making the decision for your 3 young boys wanting to live in a little bit of a smaller community. Now we're about 100,000. For the exact same reasons that I moved from Calgary, which was, compared to Lagos, a paltry 1 point whatever million.
3 million.
Yeah, so small, right? And I moved from Calgary back down to Lethbridge because this is where I wanted to raise my family. So a lot of similarities. So there's Ada and myself plugging the virtues of you guys moving to Lethbridge. Now, with that being said, though, it's not all peaches and cream, as we would say in Canada. It's not all roses. There are challenges. There are difficulties. Anytime you are moving to a brand new country with no connections, so especially those of you who do not have a job offer set up, there are challenges associated with it. So let's start off right from the beginning with the biggest question of all. And Ada has had no prep. This is purely on the spot. She is such a trooper. She's just been willing to answer these questions. So I'm going to start big. So if you could say, and you could pick one thing that was the biggest hurdle or surprise or challenge that you experienced when you first came to Canada, what would you say that would be? The biggest challenge that you faced?
Oh, well, I would say I came prepared. Before I got here, I'd already secured accommodation. I've spoken to a few people in my profession, and I knew what it was like. I used Google Map to look around Lethbridge, so I kind of knew what to expect. But the biggest challenge to me was the cold. Right in the middle of winter.
When did you arrive?
It was in March. That was at the end of winter still, but I didn't know it was that cold. That was the biggest challenge. And having 3 little kids, getting around was a problem because in that cold, we couldn't last in a bus stop for 10 minutes, right? Waiting for a bus. So we knew we needed a van right away. We needed a car. But luckily we have some people here, some Nigerians, whom we reached out to online. So they were able to take us around, take us to car shops. We were able to get a car in the first week because it was literally impossible to move around with 3 kids in the snow. So that was the biggest hurdle for us when we came.
Was the weather.
Yes.
Yes, and absolutely. And do you know what? It's interesting because when you live in a colder climate in the winter, now obviously it's beautiful today, it's nice out.
Yeah.
She says not compared to Nigeria. True, but for us it's nice out and the weather is just beautiful. The sun's shining. When I go to a place that's hot, I remember once I went to Guatemala on a
Mhm.
little on a Mayan tour.
Yeah.
I was dying. The heat, the sweltering heat, the humidity. It was
It
so
was so.
hot. I was like, "Oh, I need cool."
Oh,
And
that would
so
be Nigeria.
and so yeah. So I think it really depends. There's an adjustment. But by the
Yes.
end of the trip, it wasn't
Yeah.
as big of a deal. I was used to being wet and sweaty the whole time. I just never dried out, and that's fine. That's the way it is. And
Yes.
here it's a lot drier. I'm sure you've noticed
Yes.
that too, right? Your
Yes.
skin's a
Yes. It
lot
is.
drier, and
Yes.
yeah. And there's fewer bugs here too, which I also
Yes.
like
Yes.
because
No
the winter
mosquitoes for
kills
sure.
them off.
Yes.
Yes. Anyways, okay, so that was great. Okay, so you came in March. Okay,
Yes.
so talk about your journey. So you landed, you became a permanent resident, and then where did you fly? You flew to Calgary, or where was the port of entry? Which airport did you fly
Okay.
into?
Yeah. Well, we landed at Toronto first.
Hmm.
Yeah, we did our landing process at Toronto Airport. Then we had to declare our goods to follow. Like there is a form you have to fill in the plane to hand over a goods to follow list. So we declared that at the airport. We declared the amount of cash we had on us. Then our visas were cancelled. So you write your address where your permanent resident card could be sent to. So we first did all that process in Toronto, then flew to Calgary. We were supposed to get to Lethbridge the same day, but we missed our bus because the flight was late. And we came in a little late, so we had to sleep over in Calgary and then get to Lethbridge the next day. It was quite a journey, over 33 hours. But I was surprised the kids didn't get worn out, They were
Hmm.
still, yes.
Wonderful. So then you got to Lethbridge, and what were some of the challenges that you had? Did you already had a place set up and everything?
Yes, we had a place set up. I got the accommodation through Facebook. When we came here, when we planned coming here, the first challenge was getting accommodation because we've heard some stories of people who landed who have stayed here for over a month and wasn't able to secure accommodation because lots of landlords need reference.
Hmm.
So since you are not in Canada, you don't have a landlord reference or an employment background check or whatever. So some people offer 6 months rent in advance, like to make the landlords comfortable to be able to rent to them. But I got this accommodation through Facebook. I joined a Facebook rental group in Lethbridge. So I reached out to someone who was renting her apartment and she agreed to rent to us. She was so nice also to get the furnishings done and everything at no cost, no extra cost.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, Canadians are that nice, right?
And do you guys hear that? Canadians
Yes.
are that nice. The person that
Yes.
was renting the home to them went out
Yeah.
of their way to get them some furnishings. And that is awesome. So they weren't just moving into an empty apartment.
Yeah, we just moved in here. Like we just moved in with our bags. She was waiting here for us as well. So when we came here, we saw a familiar face. She also brought food. She was so
Oh,
nice. So it was just like coming home. So we settled
wow.
in quickly. Yeah, that
That
was
is awesome.
us.
Okay, so challenge one is making sure that you do all you can to get accommodations
Yes,
set up or in place before you arrive. Okay, so
yes.
that's super important. Okay, tell me about school for the kids.
Oh, well, school was very easy. So like the time we came, I think schools were on break because of the Easter break. It was a 1 week holiday.
Yes.
But immediately after the holiday, we went to the schools, we visited the board, and we chose Catholic schools because we are Catholics.
Yes.
So it was quite easy. We just needed the birth certificates and sometimes the baptismal certificate, which is optional, I
Hmm.
must say.
Hmm.
So when we had that, and the kids they were registered just that day, and they started school the next day. So it was very easy to get kids into school here.
Very cool. Very cool. And
Yes.
how old are your children again?
Well, I have a 7-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 3-year-old.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, so kids are in school.
Mm-hmm.
Then next on the agenda is what everybody wants to know about. They do.
Yeah.
Employment.
Right? Yes.
Jobs. Okay. Talk about your challenge, because this is really what people want to hear about.
Yes. Well, I wouldn't say it's been easy, I wouldn't say it's been easy. But for my husband, when we got here, we both went to an employment agency. There are employment agencies around town. They help people secure employment. So we visited one of them. We submitted our resumes with them. We had to rewrite our resume to Canadian standard. So when we submitted our resumes, afterwards we started getting calls. He got some calls and he got a job within the first 3 weeks we were here. It's not been easy. I haven't seen the kind of job I want, but sometimes you just have to take what's available, right?
Yes.
But being a small town, I would say it poses a bigger challenge somehow. Yeah, but he was able to get a job in 3 weeks. I haven't.
Yeah.
I haven't been able to secure the kind of employment I want because, well, I would like something that will work around the kids. Not that there are no jobs, but I would like something that would work around my kids and around my schedule. So it's been kind of tough for me for some time now. Yes.
Yeah, and that's a reality, and people need to know that, right?
Yes.
And so before you came, you and your husband, did you look into any jobs or try to make connections with Canadian employers?
Yes, we did. Yeah, we had jobs from Indeed downloading on our phone every day. Like we get updates from Indeed. Then we reached out to a couple of people through LinkedIn.
Yes. And I'm going to back up just a little bit. So what she's referring to is Indeed, which is an online job posting site. And I'm actually just going to go in here. You can keep talking. I'm going to post just with a text overlay what we're talking about here. And you can actually, let's see, there it is right on our screen right here. So Indeed is one of the places that you guys access to look for employment.
Yes. Okay. And also Workopolis.
Yes. Yeah, those are,
Yes. And also, you could also find jobs on Kijiji. They have few jobs, in Kijiji, but it's very limited. Then we reached out to people on LinkedIn as well.
I'm going to put these up here. Workopolis, LinkedIn. You can keep going. So how did that work?
Okay, well, we got a few replies anyway, not because we didn't have Canadian address on our resume at that time. It was quite hard.
Yes.
So everyone who sees your resume know you're out of town, so we didn't get a lot of calls. But when we got here and we got a Canadian address and phone number, things changed.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but we reached out to people in our profession through LinkedIn. So I think that was how I reached out to you before I got here.
Yes.
And so we made that connection before I came to visit you at your office. So I think I recommend that a lot, especially for people who are in sought after professions, like link up with people on LinkedIn. Those in IT, I've heard lots of good news. So some people even got offers like the first week they moved here through LinkedIn. Then the jobs on Indeed as well, people get offers from there. So I would say just start applying, start searching from back home so that you get a hang of it. Sometimes you could be lucky, by the time you are here, you will have a job settled.
And I'm going to put up Kijiji up here on our screen as well. So those are some of the more common places that you can look for jobs. Excellent. Okay, so if you could offer some suggestions or recommendations for people, some advice to making the process go a little bit smoother, and I think you've maybe hinted at it a little bit already, the importance of preparation, but what would be kind of some tips that you could leave with people who have their confirmations of permanent residence right now and are looking to immigrate to Canada?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge for lots of people I know is where to settle. Canada is very large, like people don't know where to go. Some have friends, some have families here. So I believe that if you have friends or family here in Canada who could help you, who could make your transition easier, it's nice to go to them, Then from then, if you don't like the city or if you're not able to get a job from there, you could apply elsewhere. You could apply to the whole of Canada, then you move wherever you get a job. So coming here, it's good to be prepared. Very good to be prepared. Do a lot of research Like I said, before we got here, I used Google Map. Like I knew all the streets, I knew the color of the house we were moving in. So I did a lot of research before we got here. So I would recommend that a lot. Get to know the place you want to land, where you want to settle. Get to know the jobs available there. Like if you're an engineer, most times they say come to Alberta, right? Because we have the oil here.
Yes.
So yeah, I would say people should look into that, do a lot of research before coming here. It will help in settling down.
Excellent. Well, this has been great, Ada. I really appreciate the time that you've taken. You've shared a lot of really, really good advice for our members. And I know that they're going to benefit from this, and especially to the world, because we're going to spin this out and put it on our YouTube channel as well. So thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. And Ada has also now been added as a moderator within our group. So she'll be popping in from time to time, checking in and seeing how people are doing. And so I'm really happy for her to be able to do that for us as well. All right. Well, thanks so much, Ada.
Yeah, thank you so much, man.
You bet. We'll let you go now. Take care. Bye.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
All right. Now I'm going to clear these out here, but you can see each of these lovely locations for finding jobs in Canada. Wasn't that awesome? Ada really went out of her way to share the reality of moving to Canada. And I appreciate the time that she took, the insight that she shared. And I know that those of you who are listening will have benefited from this. There are a lot of different places you can live in Canada. And sometimes it all comes down to where you can get a job. And obviously, if you have friends and family, that's the best place to start. Okay, great. All right. So now I'm at the stage where I'm going to jump into the question answering phase of the EE Live Q&A. That little visit with Ada took about 26 minutes. And so now we're going to move into the questions that were sent via email. And then I will say the last little bit for people that are attending live. So the first question that we have here is from Ayushi. And Ayushi says, "Hi, Mark. I hope you are doing great. Here's my query. I have raised a CSE, which is a case-specific inquiry, to submit some additional documents to prove my siblings' residence in Canada on the 1st of May, 2018. So they sent it a little over a month ago. Though I have already submitted this bank statement to prove his residence at the time of the acknowledgement of residence, the acknowledgement of receipt, but to be on a safer side, I have given his pay stubs and employment letters, as well as using the case-specific inquiry." So here's his question. "It's been 33 days now, but I haven't received any acknowledgement from CIC. Should I raise another CSE again? Also, is it mandatory for the visa officer to look at the documents sent using CSE, or is it at the discretion of the visa officer to consider it or not?" Ayushi, this is a great question, and one that I have not had to this date. And I'm just going to put a timestamp on it. This question relates to whether or not you can add extra documents after actually submitting your eAPR. So the short answer is an officer does not have any obligation to look at any additional information that was not included in the original eAPR submission. So express entry is designed to be complete. And if it's not complete when you submit it, many, many, many people out there know that they will just get their application returned. Now, I recognize, Ayushi, that you have submitted other documentation to prove your sibling in Canada, but you just felt that maybe you should add a little bit more. Well, I'll tell you, my fingers for you are crossed. Crossed that the original submission will be enough, because there's no obligation of an officer to look at anything that isn't asked previously. You need to get it right the first time, or run the risk that your application is going to get rejected. So we've seen feedback in our group about other people who faced disastrous consequences because they did not provide the right type of information to justify or prove the sibling relationship in Canada. So I hope that you've got enough in there. But in answer to your questions, as far as getting an acknowledgement back, that rarely comes in any quick period. I have received acknowledgements over a month and a half after I've submitted them, almost 2 months sometimes. So don't expect to get anything back, but also don't expect an officer to even look at that information. If they do, it's a bonus. Okay? So everything needs to be set in place right at the beginning when you submit your application. Okay. So there we go. And then Syed says, I think it's better to contact by email. Maybe that's the question. Maybe that's related to Ayushi's question. Good luck contacting anyone by email. If you are applying or you're submitting something to a visa office where you know your application is at, then yes, there's going to be an email address associated with that you can send direct inquiries to. But at the beginning stages of express entry, you actually don't have any clue where your application is ultimately being processed. So without some feedback from the government, and for Ayushi, they were just at the acknowledgement of receipt stage, you have to face the reality that it's entirely possible you don't even know where your which visa office is processing. It could be even Ottawa in Canada. It doesn't necessarily have to be India or Pakistan. All right. Okay, great question. All right. Any of you, and I'm seeing a few people are posting comments here. Remember that the comments have to be small, the questions have to be concise and short, because I'm not going to read through a very, very long one. And if it's specific related to you, and only your unique situation that doesn't have general applicability to everybody in our group and everybody out there in YouTube, then I'm also going to skip past that comment as well. Okay. But don't post your comments yet, because I'm not going to look at any of the previous ones. I'm only going to go with what was posted at the very end. Okay. Next question. This one is from Rachit. And Rachit says, my acknowledgement of receipt was April 14th, 2018, and I have got a right of permanent resident fee request on May 16th, 2018. Is it a good sign? Okay. What are the chances of rejection after receiving a right of permanent resident fund request letter? The reality, Rashid, is if they're asking for the right of permanent resident, that is the last step to finalize your application. Once it's paid, then they'll ask for your passport. You can rest assured that you are very, very close. You're nearing the end. For those of you who are uncertain as to what's happening here, Rachit only paid the application fee, the $550 fee at the beginning, and you have a choice. You don't have to pay all 1,040 Canadian dollars at the beginning. You can just pay the first part. Then once you reach the stage where they're ready to finalize your application, you'll get the request to pay that right of landing fee from the government, which essentially is like a cash grab. They're just looking for a little extra money for you in order to land in Canada as a permanent resident. So Rashid, yes, very, very good sign. Absolutely. And definitely you are going to see very, very positive results in the very near future. So congratulations. Okay. Next question is from Angela. And I believe maybe I've answered questions from Angela before, I believe. Here's her question. She says, I have a query regarding proof of funds. I maintained my bank account till February 2018 at about $21,300 Canadian for the required funds, but then CIC increased the minimum amount required. I deposited that extra amount in my account in April. Will it cause any problem if I submit my application next week? Also, because of currency rate fluctuation, the average balance in my bank account declined below the minimum required. Please suggest if I can use my bank statement with this situation. Okay, so Angela, the key is when you file your application to IRCC, and that's your eAPR, the Electronic Application for Permanent Residence. When you submit that and you have to upload your documents, it's at that stage that you must meet the minimum level that's required. And lots of people, I know we've talked about this before, but I'm going to jump on. I'm going to share my screen again here. I'm going to go into this. I'm going to blow this up and we're going to go right into, I wonder if I have it anywhere. Let's see. I don't. I'm going to search for it again here. I'm just going to do right here, go to proof of funds. And those of you will see right here, right at the beginning. Let's see. Does it have it at the beginning? Maybe it's a little bit later. I'm going to scroll down. These are the minimum amounts that you have to provide. Okay. And so right now, as it stands, if you're one person, you have to provide $12,475. If there's four, maybe a mom, dad, and two kids, $23,181. But these amounts are updated usually on an annual basis. And so if you go down here you can see that this was last updated at the beginning of 2018. And come next year, it's going to get updated again, which will result in these funds actually increasing. So if you're applying right at the beginning or the end of 2018, and you are you get your ITA, and then it's 2019, pay close attention to this to make sure that you actually have the funds that you need. Okay, I'm going to go back here, get on here again. And so Angela's asking, is it going to be a problem if there's currency fluctuation? So at the end of the day, make sure you have enough when you file your eAPR. You have to have enough that is convertible at that stage to Canadian dollars. You don't need to actually convert it to Canadian dollars, but the currency needs to be at that level when you file your eAPR. If there's currency fluctuations in that interim period, I wouldn't worry too much about it. But when you actually go to land again, make sure that there's enough that with the currency exchange, you meet those minimum requirements. In terms of you falling below when you originally submitted your application because of those fluctuations, don't worry about that period of time when you said that you deposited extra into your account. That's great. You did exactly what you should have done. And always maintain or try to top it up. And hopefully the currency exchanges will change. And maybe your local currency will be stronger against the Canadian dollar as you get closer to landing. But if not, it's okay. It happens. All right. Okay. Now we're going to go to Mansi, and Mansi is asking this question. While uploading documents in Express Entry, after receiving the ITA, do we need to notarize all the documents even if they are in English? So where's the answer to that? Let's take a look right here. I'm going to share my screen again for you guys. We're going to go in here, and I'm just going to go to the wonderful site called the Completeness Check site. Let's see if I can pull it up here. Okay, and I'll blow it up so everybody can see. And right at the beginning, the question here that Mansi asked was related to if it's in English. Absolutely not. English documents do not need to be notarized at all. But if they're not, and I'm just going to keep this where everybody can see it. If you scroll here, you can see that there is a section on this lovely page called Translation of Documents. So if a supporting document is in a language other than English or French, then you need to provide a copy of the original document. Never, ever forget to do this. Some people get their applications refused because they forget to include the actual copy of the original document. So the original document in your native language, as well as a version from the translator. So the translated version, and it has to have an affidavit from the person who completed the translation. Okay, and a certified photocopy of the original. So this is just repeating it over and over. Okay, but the reality is, if it's in English, then you don't need to worry about that notarization. It's only in the circumstances of when there's an actual translation. Okay, this is a great question, Mincy. Okay, next question is, if I have a sibling who is a permanent resident in Canada but has not yet received the PR card, what alternative documents can we show, like landing paper, etc.? Well, absolutely. You can show the confirmation of permanent residence and the date that it was signed by both parties, the officer and your sibling. That is proof of permanent resident status. The PR card actually, it's just used for airlines to confirm that a person is a permanent resident and that they can board. It's the confirmation of permanent residence document that's really the document that confirms permanent resident status. Okay, and last question here, and I'm actually going to put this here at 39. Then the last question is, my postgrad degree is not recognized by WES. Can I show my freelance experience during that time? Under what section will I show my postgrad degree, as I'll have to add postgrad details since it is mentioned in my WES? Okay, this one I'm going to leave, Mansi, because this one's a little bit more complicated, but the reality is your education does not have to match with your work experience. So I've said that time and time again. And for those of you who are wondering about the other resources that I have out there, every single one of these videos that I do here can be found on my YouTube channel. And the YouTube channel is the Canadian, oh, I guess I got to sign in here. Let's see if I can remember. Hopefully it's, oh, hooray, it's automatically saved. My YouTube channel is the Canadian Immigration Institute. And in here, I have a list of every single video that I've ever done since the beginning of time. And they're all posted here. And you can see actually this one down here is actually the day that Ada came to visit me in the office with her son. But I created express entry tip of the days. And I think I'm going to go back to doing more of those. But one of the tip of the days that I have is this one right here. And it's entitled, I'm going to pause this. I'm going to actually slide this over so that people can see it a little bit better. Let's see if I've got it. I know I usually do. There it is. Okay. Does my education have to match my work experience? This is where I debunk this myth. To claim work experience, it does not have to match your education. So I'm not sure, Monsi, if I'm answering your question the way you want it to, but the reality is if you are thinking you have to have a WES educational credential assessment for you to be able to show you've got the education for your freelance experience, it doesn't apply. Your freelance experience just needs to meet the minimum requirements for work experience. And if we go back here to, I'm just going to go back a couple more to the completeness check page here. Boy, guess I got a ways to go. There. If you go back here and then you go to work experience, it just has to meet these requirements here, what the government's asking for. And I will show you as well, the Federal Skilled Worker Program eligibility tells you exactly what work experience can count and what doesn't. Now, in other EE Live Q&As, I have actually gone and shown you the actual law, but this is pretty close. So this policy instruction here, in terms of what is acceptable for foreign work experience, is actually mirrors what the actual regulations state. So you can see here, nowhere does it say that your education within this page has to match with the work experience you're trying to claim. It all comes down to the duties that you have, the duties that you've performed. And so in going through the process, and we talked about this just a little bit before, if you're going and you're looking at the requirements for your reference letters, you can see that it actually asks you to list your duties and responsibilities right there. And that is where you will show that you actually perform the duties of whatever skilled occupations you're trying to claim work experience for. So this is just a roundabout way of saying and answering your question that it really does not matter. And I'm just going to here, your work experience that you are trying to claim doesn't have to match your education. So, that was a long one. All right, Monsi, good question. Last, and you know what, actually, guys, I think that ends it. I had one other question that I dealt with before from one of the listeners by the name of Jayanti. And Jayanti had an issue with the WES assessment, and it had indicated that the degree was a combined or a dual bachelor's degree. And we both kind of felt that really should have been 2 degrees. So he should be able to claim 2 or Jaya, I should say, Jaya should be able to claim 2 or more degrees, one of which at least 3 years. And that's kind of the side that we fell on. But when your WES report says, it says dual, actually, I'm going to pull it up. Just give me 1 second here. I'm just pulling up Jaya's WES here so I know exactly what it says. Yes. So it says dual bachelor's degree, and then in parentheses, 4 years. And actually, I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to just post it here so you guys can see. So the WES report says this: dual bachelor's degree, 4 years. There. Okay, this right here, this statement, dual bachelor's degree, 4 years, that's what the WES report stated. Now, some of you, if you're listening to this and you have seen, something similar to this, at this point, I have not seen anything related to this in the past. So if you've experienced it or are aware of anyone else that has also experienced it, This is one of those questions where you can't relate back to immigration law or policy because this is WES's determination of the equivalency. And in some cases, we just don't know exactly what how this would be interpreted. But I look at this and I think, boy, dual bachelor's degrees. Well, I have a dual bachelor's degree, a Bachelor of Arts and a Bachelor of Education that took me 5 years to complete it, but it's still 2 degrees. And so in my view, if they've got dual here, I'm leaning on the side of this being a 2 or more year credential, a 2 or more degrees, one of which being 3 years as the level of education that you can claim. That's where I'm going to side, even though it says 4 years here. Because technically that would be 3 years maybe for one degree and 1 year for another, which would still meet the minimum requirements for that educational level. All right, great question. Super happy for all of the people who sent these latest ones in because they've been really, really helpful in making this particular EE Live Q&A that much better. Well, guys, we have approximately 14 minutes to answer live questions. So I'm going to go on here and I'm going to see what we have. All right, so Fazila said my last application was rejected. I am so sorry, Fazila. So my last application was rejected. So I am expecting IRCC to refund my right of permanent resident fee. It's been more than a month. How much time does it take? I can tell you for them to refund the money, usually it can take months. It really can take a long, long time. So you're gonna be in it for the long haul, Fazila. And I am so sorry that your application was rejected. Why? Just post in the comments. You know, people don't usually post that they got their application rejected because they're embarrassed because everybody in the world is telling them that it's so easy. You don't need to get help from anyone else. Everything is straightforward. Everything is on the government website, which it is not, clearly. But there's people out there who have very straightforward situations that assume everyone else's situation is straightforward as well. So Fazila, just post and let us know what your challenge was. Okay, Mac gives me a thumbs up. Thanks, Mac. Okay, let's see here what we've got. Okay, Razib says, I've received my confirmation of permanent residence. Awesome, congratulations, Razib. I haven't landed yet, though. I'm going to apply for a U.S. visa. In the application, there is an option that do you have permanent residence of any other country in addition to your native country? Is the answer yes or no? Razib, the answer is no. You are not a permanent resident of Canada until you actually land, take your confirmation of permanent residence, present it to an officer, and have it signed off by the officer, and you sign it. And that is when you become a permanent resident. So, good question. And you know what? While I'm doing this, I'm going to try to actually keep track. Once again, it's always hard. It's really hard to stay on top of all the questions that are asked. So in this case, it is, when do I become a PR? Okay, next question. All right, so this one here, I'm just skipping through here. Remember, these questions have to be related to express entry. So Shivam, you've asked a study permit one. I'm going to skip through yours. These all have to be related to express entry. Okay, Mrunal says, hi, Mark. Our AOR is the 18th of March. RPRF fees paid up front. Only medicals are cleared and status shows that the background status has not been started. Is our application progressing? Mrunal, it's always progressing, sometimes slower, sometimes faster. And we know that some individuals, like citizens of Iran, the background checks and things are taking a very, very long time. And so it just depends. Some countries require more time to do the background and security checks. It depends on who the government is communicating with, how fast they confirm with them or communicate back with them the information that they need. So there's a number of things that can delay processing, but you are not, I recognize you're sitting there thinking, man, it's been like 3 months. Is anything happening? Well, understand that it takes time. And you guys all have to remember, less than 6 months is the standard for 80% of the applications. If at any time they have to come back and ask anything from you, then those processing times no longer apply, and it could take however long they want it to. Okay, Mrunal. So that is the question. Okay, next here. Subhash says, I was a tax senior with a Big Four in India. Big Fours. EY, PwC, KPMG, who else am I? Deloitte. I'm assuming those are the Big Four tax ones they're referring to. Working on a Dutch expatriate income tax returns full-time. Do I qualify for the NOC 1111? Okay, Subhash, this is also one of those specialized questions that would require a paid consultation. I spend probably half of my time confirming proper NOC codes for people, because if you get it wrong, your application is going to get refused. And sometimes it's not easy. So in your case, Subhash, you'd need to book a paid consult for me to make that determination. Whether or not you're working in an actual, the NOC code that you're claiming is entirely dependent upon whether or not you are performing a substantial number of the main duties of the NOC 2016 profile for, in this case, accountants. So you need to look at the actual duties in your reference letter that one of these Big Four accounting firms would provide to you, and ensure that it matches with a substantial number of the main duties listed in the NOC for that 1111 position. And so in your case here, you need to make sure, and this, I'm just going to make a quick note here, NOC, you need to make sure that you go and you look at your reference letter and match it up. And what is substantial? Maybe about 75%, maybe a little more, maybe a little less, might be acceptable. But you need to show that your duties match up with the actual NOC 2016. Okay. All right. That is a great, great question. Okay. So now we're going to move on here. Razib says, thank you. You're welcome, Razib. Sudhir gives me a thumbs up. Jasdeep, got my WES report today and masters it is. Awesome. Very cool. Okay. And Kita says, hi, Mark. When is the next draw expected, since it didn't happen on June the 6th? I have seen times where it's gone an entire month without a draw. And some people think that it is going to happen like clockwork every Wednesday, every other week. It doesn't. Sometimes it will take another week before a draw is issued. And it depends on a lot of factors, but they don't post any information in terms of when these draws are actually going to be released. So I'll be honest, Ankita, I actually don't know. And no one does, other than those internal within the government. And you'll see, and we've got just a couple seconds here. Let's go back. I'm going to show you my screen again. And here I'm going to make a note. Actually, I need to go back a second and just jot down the time. And this is where you can look, and those of you who are tuning in on YouTube, you can go here, and all you need to do is type in EE rounds of invitations, and it will take you to the site where you can see the most recent draw. And guys, you can look here and you can see that on the most recent draw, May the 30th, it was a draw that was program specific. And you'll remember just a couple EE Live Q&As ago, I told you that sometimes those who are who are looking to qualify for the Federal Skilled Trade Program, that we're overdue for another draw. There's usually a couple of those every year. And that's exactly what happened here on May the 30th. For those who were qualified under the Federal Skilled Trade Program, you were one of the 500 invitations that were issued. And the CRS score for Federal Skilled Trade was 288. So it's substantially lower because it's based on different factors. And usually a trade level employee or worker is not going to have a master's degree, nor necessarily as high of English language. But that is that's what the score was. And then PNP, we don't worry too much about that. That's a separate issue. And you can see the lowest ranking, 902. That's because every PNP candidate has 600 points right off the bat for their nomination. Okay, but here's what I want to look at. I want to scroll down right here, and I want to click on previous rounds. And I know my face is going to be in the way of this a little bit. Let's see, maybe I'll do this to help out. If I can click on that, there. I think that's probably a little bit better there, because you guys can all see this. Let's take a look at the history of these rounds of invitations, okay? So May 23rd, we were at 440. We go back to May 9th, 441. And you guys can see the trend here, right? 441, 446, right around the 440s. 456, it jumped up a little bit there. February was 442. February 7th, 442. January, 444. January, 446. So all year, it has not dropped below 440, which actually surprised me a little bit. And so at this stage, there's a trend where scores are not dropping below 440. In fact, we have to go back all the way to November the 15th, where it was 439 points. So what does that tell us? Well, it tells us there's a good likelihood that the scores are going to remain high. And so that's how you can tell in terms of your comprehensive ranking system scores. That's how you can tell exactly what, at least to some extent, what the scores have been in the past, and you can use those to help guess what they might be in the future. I guess I should have gotten rid of that as well. All right, now I'm going to go here. Okay, so the next question that we have here, let's see if we've got it. We've got a couple more that have come through. Wow, let me see. Let's see if we can figure out where I left off with. Okay, here we go. Okay, Subhash says, once again, thanks, Mark. I got my reference letter, and the tough thing is my deducing power to see if it's 75%. By the way, I worked with Deloitte and EY. Okay, there you go, Subhash. Well, the reality is just contact me and you can book a paid consultation, and we can sort it out for sure. It's not something that I'm able to do here. Okay, next question. This was from Deval. Okay, Deval says, yeah, I need to ask you something regarding to work permit. Okay, Deval. Let's see here. The question, I'm just looking to see if it has anything to do with express entry. Yeah, so Deval, that's another one that's outside of express entry. We're just focusing on those. So work permit questions, things of determining knock, all those kinds of things. You would actually need to book a paid consultation with me. All right. Let's see if Karen has a question here. Karen says, I finished my 2-year program in Canada last year in nursing. Okay, great. And actually, it's interesting because one thing, actually, I'll make a note here, 30. Okay, so Karen, her question here, I just finished a consult just today with someone who is getting ready to complete a nursing program in Canada, the licensed practical nurse, LPN. So Karen says, I finished my 2-year program in Canada last year in nursing, and I had my BSc from my home country. On my CRS, should I claim degree with 3 years or more with diploma? Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. So Karen, I don't know what your WES was for your Bachelor of Science in your home country, or I shouldn't say just WES, any of the ICAS or any of the educational credential assessment agencies. If that degree diploma, your BSc, equates to a Canadian undergraduate degree of at least 3 years or more, then yes, absolutely. You can list 2 or more degrees, one of which at 3 years. The 3 years being the one from your home country and the 2-year program being just the second credential in Canada. So you can, but I don't know what your WES is. So I'll just put here. Okay. All right. So now let's move forward. Okay. Madulika says, is AIPP program for Atlanta is valid? I'm actually not sure what you're referring to here. The Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program is separate from Express Entry. It is still open. It's not closed. And it's Atlantic Canada. All right. So that is that one. Oni says, my husband had a major surgery last year, but he is fine and back to work. Would that be a game changer in any way, please? Okay, Anya, there's no way I can answer that because I have no clue what the surgery was or what the issue was. All right, let's see here. Jazdeep says, Mark created an event a few days before for your live video. It will send people who show interest in watching a notification. Jasdeep, thank you so much. That is so kind. I really, really appreciate that. Guys, you know, I'm just a Canadian immigration lawyer. All of this technology, everything, I've tried to figure it out myself. Clearly, I struggle with all the technology. This is not some fancy high production event. This is me struggling forward, trying to make sure that I'm actually offering good content and benefiting people. It's definitely not some fancy thing. But when people like Jasdeep go out of their way to help me like that, it means a ton. I really appreciate it. So Jasdeep, yeah, I really, notifications like that are significant, and it really makes a difference, and it really helps me. So thanks so much. All right, guys, time's up today. We are at our 1 hour mark. I want to thank all of you who participated, all who asked questions, all who sent them in via paper here, and just for being awesome guests. So thanks so much for attending this live EE Q&A, and I hope all you guys survive. I hope you all have success, that you all are ultimately able to realize your dream of immigrating to Canada through this crazy world that we call express entry. Canadian immigration lawyer, Mark Holthe here, ex-immigration officer and former high school teacher, signing off. Once again, see you next week. Bye.